From the starting tactics, we're now changing to the straight line tactics. To explain you this, I'm gonna draw the wind direction again, which is from the north, and I'm gonna draw two marks. We have a mark here and a mark here. Touch downwind, which is usual for slalom. Going from this mark to this mark, usually you would think the fastest is a straight line. I would say in flat water, definitely a straight line is the fastest. You see some people going up, going down, going up, and they come this way. I usually on flat water don't see the sense of this. This is basically the shortest distance. Here you will travel more distance, which is going to take more time. Personally, I would love to sail a line which is always going a little bit upwind before. Why? The wind direction is changing on a lot of places quite often. In case the wind direction is changing in a way that the mark is more upwind, it's always more difficult to point a lot upwind to the mark than to go a bit more downwind. So I always advise to first go a little bit upwind, then really see where the mark is going, and then make a straight line to the mark. This way you're basically safer on the reach in case the wind direction is changing. A line like this, I would say, is ideal in flat water. In chop or waves, it comes down on the same. You still want to have that little bit of a safe approach for the next mark, but a straight line might not always be the fastest. I'm gonna take the ideal line away. If we're having some chop from mark to mark, and basically these are the highest peak of a chop, let's say where the white water is rolling, you can imagine if you take a straight line, you basically hit every single piece of chop, which will make you break down, break down, break down. In this case, it can actually be faster to sometimes go a bit up, bit down, bit up, and then actually approach the mark. This is just for getting the maximum speed out of the straight line. When it's choppy, when it's wavy, it's not always a straight line. You're searching for the flat spots because that's where you actually can speed up the most. So don't be focused on there's the mark, that's the straight line I want to make. Of course, if every wave is pushing you down, you will eventually not make it to the mark. So you will always need to have an eye that your let's say the line which is a little bit in the flow is not too much off. But this will generally, in choppy conditions, will give you a better speed and a better approach to the mark. Next to flat water and chop, there are other elements we have to face with. There's actually other guys racing with us. I'm gonna take this line away again. And I'm gonna basically show, if you're in the lead, how you can actually defend somebody. You can imagine if you're at the mark and you shoot downwind, which makes you want to go upwind again, it's very easy for the next guy to say like, I go already a bit crosswind, and the moment you have to go upwind, I'm going downwind, so you basically have a faster line. It's always safer that after the mark, you make sure you go upwind a little bit up to a point where you know that the guy behind you cannot pass you anymore, and then you shoot downwind, because if the guy has to go below you, he will always have your dirty wind, and this will almost make it impossible to overtake from below. Of course, if this mark is not here, I'm gonna take it away. But really downwind, you can imagine that if you go too much upwind, the next guy shoots downwind and will pass you from below. So it's always, you always need to know where the next mark is to decide how much you go upwind, if you actually go upwind or you straight shoot downwind. But really make sure that this way it's easier to defend somebody. In IFCA we are having rules where you cannot change your line too much. So if we're with two people going to the mark, you cannot push somebody out. This could get into a collision and you're actually dangerous sailing, which will get you a protest or something like this. In PWA you can. There's no rules. As long as it's not dangerous, you're allowed to push somebody up or down. So just make sure when you're racing that you know if there's rules or not. But in national races and IFCA races, usually we have the rules that you're not allowed to change your line too much.